Good day. My name is Tunde Success, and it's my pleasure to be here to share inside perspective on the subject of work-life balance. I hope you're inspired. I hope you learned something. Thank you for joining us, and God bless you. All right, thank you. That's an interesting conversation, and I think it's also a trending conversation because a lot of people are affected, by this issue. In my experience, there are different layers to it. I've worked with a one-man organization. Work-life balance conversation when I started my career is not the same thing as work-life balance. When I was at the middle, management, and work-life balance when I moved to senior management, is not the same thing. So the issues are different depending on what level of seniority you are in your organization. The issues are also different depending on the industry that you work. Some industry are fast-paced, some industry are not. Some industry just take it very easy with you. So there are a lot of contextual factors that affect how individuals, how individuals experience, work-life balance, issue. It also depends on whether the husband and the wife are working, or whether it's one person who is working. It also depends on, whether you are single, or it also depends on whether you are whether you have kids or you don't have kids. It also depends on the number of kids that you have. I have three boys, and my wife is working, I'm working, so definitely it's an issue that I've had to deal with. It's an issue that we've had to deal with, and that's why we're here, to share our experience, to share our insights and our learnings, with everyone. Thank you. I think it's the same thing when it comes to time management. The question is, can you actually manage time? You have 24 hours just like every other person, does. A mediocre has 24 hours just the same way an achiever has 24 hours. A youth has 24 hours, an adult has 24 hours. So I really think that work-life balance is really around managing your energy, managing your focus. It's really not about time. It's really about how you manage your energy. How do you deploy your energy to get how do you manage your energy to drive your vision? How do you manage your energy to invest in the things that are important to you, be it work, be it family? And I think that's one of the biggest challenge that people are faced with. And I think we should move the conversation slightly away from time, because if someone, for example, works in a very toxic environment, and even if they close at 4 p.m., when they get home, they may not be in the right frame of mind, to be available to their loved ones, and somebody who works till 6 p.m., but in a friendlier environment may be available even if the time is short, to pour into their loved ones. So I think that the challenge that most people are faced with is really, how do I manage my energy? How do I manage my focus? What are the things that tampers with my energy? How does my work tampers with that energy? How does my work drains that energy? And how am I able to apportion my energy to invest in the other things that are important to me as an individual? I think communication in marriage is an important life skill. I think we all know that male, female are made differently. There are many differences between a man and a woman. When God made Adam, Eve was not there. When God made Eve, Adam was not there. How God made Adam was different from the way our God made Eve. And I think that the reason why God made us differently so that we can communicate. And when you look at the etymology of communication, it means to find common ground. to make something that is hidden to be common. So when it comes to communication, it's a skill that must be learned. First of all, starting with the fact that communication is not necessarily the content, it's how you say something. It's how you say something. So we must bear it in mind when you want to communicate with someone, or when you communicate with a loved ones, especially on an issue that affects you emotionally. You need to be mindful of how you do the communication. It's also about the timing. It's about when do you do the communication, right? You want to communicate at the appropriate time. You want to communicate when the person is not tired. Especially if it's not an emergency, if it's not something that if we don't talk about it today, the house is going to be on fire, right? Being mindful of the timing is important. Being mindful of the place is also very important. Where are we having the communication? Where are we having the conversation? These are the things that must be put into consideration when we're communicating. And I also think more importantly is also the audience. You must know your partner. Different people understand differently. Some people are very brief when it comes to communication. Some people want it to be brief. Some partner want it to be detailed. Some partner want facts. Some partner are okay with the emotion, with sentiment. So one of the biggest assignments that partners must embark upon is understanding your partner. You have to study your partner. You have to know your partner. It doesn't matter how long you've courted. It doesn't matter how long you dated each other. The journey of knowing your partner must be a continuous one. And when it comes to communication, you need to understand their preferred style of communication, so that when you are bringing to the forefront what is hidden to their own perspective, you are ticking all the right boxes. You're saying it the right way. You're saying it at the right time. And then you are also hitting them where it matters. You're hitting them in the way that they understand. But like I said, communication skill is a life skill. It's something that we must invest in, and it's something that we must do continuously, because marriage is a union of two different individuals, and that differences means that we must communicate for us to be on the same page. All right, thank you. There are two parts to that question. One is improving communication, and then two, the context being that they're on the same page as a team, right? So I think one is we need to articulate our vision as a family, our vision as a team. We need to articulate what's our mission. We need to articulate what are our values. We need to articulate what are our priorities. We need to articulate what are we about as a family, and then document those things so that we're all on the same page, because an element of our vision as a family, our goals as a family, also ties into our job. It also ties into what sort of job that we take and what sort of sacrifice we're able to make. So once we're able to define all of those big level items around our vision, our mission, and then we understand we understand the sacrifice that we need to take. So that needs to be documented, that needs to be articulated, right? And the way we improve in our ability to communicate is also to improve our wisdom level, right? Your communication is always a reflection of your wisdom level. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. If you want to improve your communication, you need to improve your wisdom level, because what you say, how you communicate is also a function of your wisdom level. But articulating what we are about as a family, also talking about what are our priorities, also talking about what are the sacrifices we need to make because of our vision, is how you ensure that everybody is on the same page. Thank you. I think that's an important question, because sometimes we're all distracted, and sometimes distraction are not necessarily bad in itself. Distractions are not bad things. A good thing can be a distraction. Anything that is not helping you to achieve your highest priority is a distraction, and that's why this question is really very important. In my view, there are a couple of things that families need to prioritize. The first one is spirituality, which is actually the centrality of your family. Marriage itself is God's idea. So you want to stay close to the heart of God. You want to stay close to the heart of the Father. You want to be sure that you're hearing correctly. No marriage is the same, and I believe that a successful marriage is an homegrown marriage that is run based on inspired, based on how God inspires you. So we need to keep spirituality at the center of our marriage, and that speaks to things as practical as devotion, family devotion, spending time as a family to pray, how we pray. I mean, those are conversations that families need to have, and whatever works for your family is something that you should do, but that's something you want to prioritize. Before Adam met Eve, Adam met God. Before Eve met Adam, Eve met God. So it's important that we keep that that relationship with God very, very important. The second priority for me would be the marriage itself, which is the core really of your union. Sometimes we neglect the marriage itself, especially for couples that have kids, or even couples that have projects that they are pursuing. You forget that marriage itself needs to be invested in, needs to be nursed. You don't stop dating, you don't stop doing all the lovely things you were doing before the wedding. You need to keep investing emotionally in that relationship, and do everything that you need to do, keep the fire burning. The third one for me would be parenting, which is the fruit of the marriage. If you do have kids, or you've adopted a child, or you have a caring responsibility, that's something you also want to prioritize, to discuss and agree on the blueprint for raising the family. What sort of schools will our children go to? How do we raise the kids? How do we raise them? How do we train them in the way that they should go, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it? That's something we need to prioritize. And after that, I would say finance. There is no romance without finance. One of the things that causes tension in marriage is money issue. We need to have that conversation. We need to prioritize it. Our ability to generate income to run the family, it's important. And finally, I would say purpose, which for me is the energy of marriage. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their labor. God said to Adam, it's not good for a man to be alone. I'll make for him an helpmeet. Right? What are we about as a family? What's our purpose? What are we doing? And that would tie into conversations like, where should we be? Which location should we be? Which geography should we be? What sort of job should we be doing? What sort of sacrifices should we be making? And so on and so forth. So those would be my prescribed priorities, for family: spirituality, your marriage, parenting, finance, and then of course purpose. Well, there are intentional steps we need to take, especially when work seems to be taking a lot more of our attention, a lot more of our energy, a lot more of our time. I would say, number one, there are mindset shifts that we need to have about marriage itself, about the durability of marriage, the fact that marriage can fail, and therefore you want to do what is necessary so that it doesn't fail, about the fact that what is defined as work needs to change. What we define as career, now the world is changing. Where work is done is changing. The duration, the time that work is required to be done is also changing. So we need to deal with a lot of mindsets, change and adjustment, right? But in practical terms, there are things we need to do in order to protect protect the investment that we make in our marriages. One, for example, would be, setting goals around your marriage. Every year, as you said, goals. Don't just set goals about work. Don't just set goals about finance. Don't just set goals about business. Set goals about your marriage, your home, right? Put a structure in place. Every Friday I'm going to take my wife out. Every Friday we'll have family meeting, or every month I'm going to take my wife out or take my husband out. Every year we're going to go on vacation. Put structure. Be deliberate about those things, right? Leverage support system around you. Anything that you can outsource it, right? And of course, where you have wife and husband who are not working, who are not in the same location, for example, leverage technology as much as possible, right? Even if you live in the same location, both of you are in Lagos, both of you are in Nigeria, but one person works very late than the other person. From time to time, crawl into each other's world using technology. Do Zoom meetings while you're at work, just to check on your loved ones. These are some of the things that you can do, right? And of course, also develop global skills, right? Make yourself indispensable at work. Make sure that you're thinking about financial independence, because sometimes the reason why we compromise and the reason why we neglect our family life in pursuit of money is because we're under pressure. At work. We need to do a lot more in order to get promoted and so on and so forth. Think about financial independence early in life, so that you are at a stage, or you are at a place where you can dictate a lot of things as far as making money is concerned. So those are some of the practical steps that we can take in order to ensure that we have work-life balance. Boundaries. Sometimes, right, the more successful you are, the less time you're likely to have, and therefore when something is not enough, where there is scarcity, you need to have a strategy for managing it, right? Set goals, have structure, and then boundary is about one, communicating to those who are likely to intrude into your structure, communicating that this is important to you, right? Anybody that cares to hear, anybody that cares to listen, let people know that this is important. For example, your vacation is important, right? Family vacation is important. 1 month date with your spouse is important, okay? And so on and so forth, right? You also design, or you also protect the boundary of the time you spend, and investment you make in your family, by having accountability around that decision. And that accountability can be, you have a mentor that you're reporting to, or you have a spiritual leader that you're reporting to. Someone is holding you accountable for what you've done, right? I think a few years ago, I used to share my goal with my pastor, right, so that I'm held accountable, right? And I've seen other people who look up to me sharing their goals with me, okay, so that someone else can hold you accountable. And if someone else is going to hold you accountable, there's a likely possibility, a higher possibility, that you will do what you need to do, in order to protect, or in order to do what you are required to do, okay? So those are ways that I believe you can protect the boundary around the investment, emotional investment, time investment that you make in your partner. The word of work it's sometimes a difficult one, right? Because you're working in a team, and there are structure, there are established processes, established time for work, and so on and so forth. And sometimes you may be working in an organization that is very high paced, fast paced, high achieving environment, and so on. Yes, it's possible to negotiate, right? But you can only negotiate from the place of strength. You can only negotiate from the place of the strength of your skill. If you're skillful and therefore you are indispensable, then they will listen to you. You know, you can negotiate from the place of reputation, track record, performance, right? The people you work with at work are aware that you are the lifeblood of that organization or the lifeblood of that team. Then it's easy to negotiate. It's easy to tell them, my 5 o'clock is my 5 o'clock. But if you are lagging behind in those areas, in terms of skills, you're not developing yourself, in terms of performance, you're not delivering as expected, then your position is weak, and therefore it's difficult for you to have such conversations with the employer around time. If they know that you are not indispensable, and therefore they can drag you around, they can call you at any time, there's nothing you can do. At the end of the day, you may lose the job, right? And then that can put a strain on the family, and the circle continues like that. So my response is yes, it's possible to negotiate realistic timelines, and we pray. Our prayer is everybody has a reasonable boss, that God bless us with good bosses, right? That's something you have to pray about, because your boss has a lot of impact on your well-being, as an employee. But more importantly is for you to be in a place of strength when you're negotiating those things. That speaks to skills, track record, reputation, and performance. I think it's to allocate your time, right? These things we have listed, sometimes they don't make demand on us at the same time. You cannot be at work and be at home at the same time. Of course, that can happen if you work remotely, but even if you work remotely, you can't be at a meeting with your boss and be doing something else, right? The way you manage is to ensure that you plan, right? You plan. When you have meetings at work, when work is making demands on you, when you want to spend time with your loved ones, you want to spend time with your kids, you have to be at your children's schools, and so on. It's to plan, do a lot of planning, in allocating the time that you have amongst the different priorities, right? The second one is to also leverage support system as much as possible, right? Sometimes it's not every time you may be able to attend your a function at your children's schools, right? But make sure that someone else stands in for you, right? And vice versa. Sometimes at work, you may have to delegate to someone else at work in order for you to attend an event at your children's school, right? It means that you must recognize the support that is available both at work and at home. You must be a reliable person. You must be someone who is also investing in your relationships, whether at home or at work, so that when you need to call on favors, it's easy for you, or it's easy for people to support you. So those are the ways you can allocate your time and manage time between different pressing priorities. Well, there are many support systems around, right? Especially as Africans, or especially as Nigerians, right? Starting from relationships that you have in church, starting, with your family, with your siblings, starting with, proteges, and then graduating to, house helps, to nannies, those are support system, that we can leverage on, friends, friends, colleagues at work. There are many support systems that are available, but I suppose that we need to make certain adjustments in our mindset, about a lot of things, and what comes to mind is, a family where the husband wants to eat, fresh meal, every day. and the wife is working, the husband is working. I think we need to be realistic in our expectations, expectations of the season of life that we are in, right? We need to be realistic about that, but otherwise there are a lot of support that we can draw from around us, as individuals. That's what I said. Take as much help as you can. Take as much help as you can. As much help as you can. Yeah.
So, how can we strengthen our support network to ensure that we have the necessary help and resources to thrive?
Yeah, I mean, how do we ask again? Sorry.
How can we strengthen our support
system?
Okay. To ensure that we have the necessary help and resources to thrive?
To thrive, yeah. I mean, you need to constantly invest in your relationships, right? You need to be a nice person, be a reliable person, be there for other people, make sacrifices for other people. Don't be all about yourself. Continuously build relationship. There are many opportunities out there, for us to make a difference in other people's lives, and reap, and reap the good, that we've done. So the way to strengthen our support system is to continuously also pour into other people. Be nice, to people. Don't be transactional in your approach to relationship, right? Don't be transactional. Some fights are not worth it. Invest in other people. Be there for other people. And make sure that the principle is don't expect to make withdrawal when you have not made deposit in a relationship. Make deposits in people. Be there for people. Be nice. Be kind to other people, right? You're strengthening your support system. Be a reliable person. If you say you're going to be somewhere by a certain time, be there. If you borrow money from people and you say you pay back at a certain time, pay back at a certain time, right? Because sometimes it's not even about the amount. It's people are judging whether you're trustworthy or not. And if you do all of that, you strengthen those systems. You strengthen them against the time that you will need them. I mean, I think so. I think one of the ways you deal with work and life balance is to also prioritize self-love. If you're not fine, nothing else will be fine. You need to take care of yourself. And I think we all have a fair share of distractions. It's not every occasion that you need to be at. It's not every party you need to attend. It's not every match you need to watch. It's not every game you need to watch or attend, right? You need to take care of yourself. You need to identify your priorities. You need to invest in yourself. You need to be fine. For you to give the best version of yourself to other people, you need to be fine. So I agree that in the midst of your tight schedule, you need to prioritize self-love. And self-love can be attending service. Self-love can be staying close to God. Self-love can be doing your devotion. Self-love can be ensuring that you are fine spiritually. Self-love can be doing a solo vacation. Self-love can be taking yourself out on a date or by yourself, just for you to be fine. Self-love is about doing your own personal retreat, so that you're fine, you're in a good place, for you to be able to dispense good to other people. Yeah, I think stress is when the demand of life exceed our capacity. The demand of life exceeds our capacity. That's when we're stressed. And I think the way you deal with stress is to keep building capacity. Be in a place where you are in be in a place where you have overcapacity. You have redundancy. It's a better place to be than to be in the deficit, right? Keep investing in yourself, keep building capacity, because you see, the more, for example, capacity in terms of skills, the more skillful you are, the less time it takes you to get things done. But the less skillful you are, the more time it takes you to get things done. Be an expert at what you do. Invest in your skills. Invest in your skills. Invest in wisdom. And just make sure that you are building capacity beyond what life may throw at you, right? But of course, when you're stressed, learn to distress by running away from the things that are stressing you. Run away from the source of stress. Sometimes some things stress us out. Just chill. Temporarily just move away from what is stressing you, right? And of course, if you need professional help, please do seek professional help. When you're stressed. One of the constant thing in life is change, and we must be adaptable. The way to survive is to be adaptable, especially when situations and circumstances change. I moved to the UK a few years ago, and it's a completely different environment from Nigeria, and you have to adapt, right? You have to adapt. Adaptation can be, in Nigeria people drive you around, but in the UK, you hop on a bus. That's adaptation. You cannot stress yourself and say, oh, I must buy a car because I used to drive a car in Nigeria, and then put yourself under stress, under pressure, just because you're not trying to adapt. You have to adapt. Those who survive are those who adapt. So you need to adapt. And adaptation isn't just about lifestyle adaptation. It's also about mindset, adaptation. Mindset shift and change that needs to happen, especially within the context of a conversation, work-life balance. Anything that is practically possible in order to reduce the stress that we face, anything that is practically possible to spend more time with our partners, more time with our loved ones, and at the same time deliver excellent work for our employer. We must do it in the spirit of adaptation. I think our reaction to unexpected events or challenge is a function of our perspective, and how we see life. To the pure, things are pure. I think that we need to be assured of God's love. When everything else fails, what must keep us going is knowing that God loves us, that God loves me, right? That God loves me, and be assured that God will come through for you, right? We also need to understand that when bad things happen, and that sometimes bad thing happens to good people, and that when bad thing happens, God can turn it around for good. To be assured that God uses bad things, God can turn around bad things. And more importantly, to also understand that he that fails in the days of adversity, his strength is small. The best we can do is to keep building strength before adversity shows up, right? Because as long as we are on this side of eternity, nobody guarantees that you will not face adversity. Your adversity may be different from somebody else, but everyone has a challenge. And the reason why we're called believers is because there's something we're always believing God for, to keep building strength, and that's why those spiritual disciplines are very important, attending church service, praying, fasting, meditating. Those are ways in which we build strength, ahead of time, right? So I think everything boils down to mindsets. And of course, if you need help, to seek help, when there's adversity, have a community, have a support system, have a community, that cares for you, cares about you, that can support you as you navigate through, that season of your life. My view is that anything can be negotiated based on strength, right? Depending on your situation, depending on where you are. In the UK, sometimes I wash plates, right? I take my son to school in the morning. In Nigeria, a school bus would do that, naturally, right? Anything, I think what is important to focus on, right, is peace. What's important to focus on is well-being, protecting your well-being, doing everything that is necessary, for your family to thrive, for your family to be at peace, for you to enjoy each other, as a couple. Roles can be negotiated. I don't think that, yes, there are gender roles are traditional or cultural in context, right? And anything that is cultural in context is subject to change. I think couples need to negotiate, who does what based on our skills, based on our strength, based on our availability, based on our peculiar, situation as a couple and our context. All of those can be negotiated. Marriage, I believe, is a journey of continuous negotiation between two people. You need to keep talking, to keep negotiating. There is nothing, especially in our days of today, there is nothing that says you can have a husband, at home, and the wife working. If the wife has a better job, if the wife has a more high-paying job, for example, so I believe that, families should be open to negotiating gender roles, especially the ones that are prescribed by society, as long as it gives both parties, peace of mind. It gives both parties, what they want at the end of the day. I think the principle is the same, right? Workload should be shared based on skill sets. Workload should be shared based on strength. Workload should be shared based on availability. Workload should be shared based on context and situation, in the family. I think what is important is for families to be open, for husband and wife to be open, to having the conversation, be open to negotiation. I mean, if I take a cue from what happens in businesses and organizations, structure is very important. Having a structure like every month we have family meeting, right? Because when you then do that, the things that can come out from that family meeting can enrich, your marriage. Have things like family meeting where you discuss the family, what are we doing, what's the plan, set goals for the family, set goals for the family, what's going to happen family wise this year, go on vacation once in a year or twice in a year, deliberately, investing emotionally in each other, is important. I can only give you framework because I don't know what matters to one family may not matter to the other family. Go to the cinema, go to the beach, take a walk together, pray together, attend concerts together, get on a train together, visit family together. There are many things you can do, but I think from a framework point of view, is really having a structure and setting goals around those things. Goals determine the direction of our energy. Anything goes around, you're likely to, it will determine how you use your time, to determine how you use your energy. So set goals around your family. We fail to set goals because we don't think about it, and we set goals around every other thing, and at the end of the day, we then realize that our marriage is suffering because we haven't done the needful, and the reason why we haven't done the needful is because we didn't set goals, and therefore we couldn't channel our energy in that direction. We leave it to chances. We should be. Of course, set rules, right? I've talked about setting goals, talked about setting structure, also set rules. When we are together, no phones, right? Switch off your phones and let's agree, right? And just do it as simple as that. That's how you ensure that your partner is present. You can also decide we don't want to be at home, right? Maybe there are distractions. Stay away from distractions, and distraction can be your device, distraction can be an environment, distraction can be an individual. Stay away from distraction. That's how you ensure that the person is present. And maybe even have an agenda. We're going out, this is what we're going to discuss, right? So that person can prepare, and then they can fully be present when you're having a conversation, depending on what you decide to do. Like I said at the beginning, that's really the starting point, right? Vision, God's vision for your life is the starting point. Your marriage is meant to help you fulfill God's vision for your life. God's vision for your life determines the direction of your prosperity, determines the direction of your finance. That's where you must start from. That's where you start from. So it's really very important. It's important to also help you set expectation, because there are visions, different types of visions, and there are visions require sacrifices, and different visions require different types of sacrifices. So if we are clear about the vision, then we understand what sort of sacrifice we need to make. And you see, work-life balance conversation differs from one family to the other, differs from one person to the other, because you must also understand what your partner wants. You must understand the language of your partner. You must understand the need of your partner. Some partners, need time. Some partners don't want time, right? Some partners just want you to be, they want you to spend quality time with them. Some partners want you to spend quantity time with them. So understand your partner, right? And match that or marry that with the conversations around, your vision, your goals, the demands of the vision, the demands of the goals, and have those conversations and manage expectations. Once expectations is managed, work-life balance will not be a challenge once all of those things are sorted out. There are many tools out there. That can help you to set goals. You can use them. You can Google them. There are journals out there that can help you set goals. I have written a book about goal setting. You can also pick a copy, of the book. But there are tools out there that can help you. Digital tools, physical tools that can help you to set goals. Just get on it and do it. And do it. God bless you. Oh, brilliant. One of the things that I recommend as ways of setting goals and putting structure in place is to have, a family meeting, right? Which can happen every month or every quarter. During the family meeting, you can review your goals, review your plan, right? And if you need to change it, you can change it. But if you don't do that, you will lose the opportunity, to make any adjustment to your plans. The changes in plan depends on a number of things. It depends on what's happening in your life. It depends on where you are. It depends on what phase you are in your marriage. It will depend on a lot of things, but once you agree to meet regularly at specified times in the year, use those times to review the plan and make the necessary adjustments.